Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Zelda Cast. I'm your host, Andy Spiteri, and I'm joined, as always, by my pal, Allison Aletha. How's it going, Al?
Exactly. I wasn't sure if you were going to say Al or Allison. I'm Allison today.
This is Allison. We've both come under the weather, so our voices sound a little different, you know?
Oh, right. Yes. For those of you listening on audio format.
Yeah. Well, we also appear different because we're a little sick, actually. Feeling a bit under the weather.
So I'm Mossy, and this is Goo. we're filming we're filling in for both of them. We're sick.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah, can some sicknesses transmit over podcast?
Well, speaking of sickness, I got a quick story to tell.
Okay.
Because I found something at my house. I was like going through the house the other day, and I was going to the boiler room, and I found something so disgusting and so sickening that I didn't know what to do.
What'd you find?
And so it's a Nintendo Wii U power block with a piece of tape on it that says Spiteri.
Oh.
So I mean, the house is cursed. I don't know. I have to hire an arsonist or something. Or?
To get ready.
Yeah.
I think you need to hire someone to do a seance, maybe.
Yeah. I was plugging in my Wii U, was setting up for some Wind Waker to potentially do some streaming, and I was looking for a power block, and I had two of them, and one of them said Spiteri on it.
I wonder what Spiteri's power block says on it.
My guess is he has not touched his Wii U and doesn't know he's missing one.
Oh, he might be missing one. Okay, Andy, if you're listening, you think he'll listen back to this? If you're listening, go check your Wii U right now. Make sure you're got all your stuff.
Maybe he has, I don't know. Maybe he's got like a Rod Lloyd or something.
Oh, yeah, like there's like a musical chairs, but with the...
Yeah.
You know what? He probably intentionally left it to have like when it's like, okay, we're coming up on the marathon next year. Andy, we're going to need you to practice Twilight Princess. And he's like, oh, sorry, I can't do it.
No Wii U power block. Yeah. So,
wow. So you were filling in for them. And I guess, it's been a few months now, or a month, since the last trailer for Tears of the Kingdom, the name reveal we got. And no one's gotten to hear Masa's take on it.
So, we talk about the name for a minute.
Yeah.
I remember, like, when it came up, I'm like, oh, Tears of the Kingdom.
That's what your initial thought was when you saw that? Oh, okay.
And but then I'm like, wait, is this a double meaning?
Uh-huh.
Like, I think it is a double. I mean, they kind of could mean the same thing in a way.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I saw said was that it translates in Japanese, like it's not the same,
Right.
Right. So, and it was tears, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean,
right.
Could.
I mean, we know so little about this game,
mm-hmm.
and like, I kind of wonder how different of a game it's going to be.
Yeah, that's kind of I've gotten a chance to say it, but that's been my main concern. Is like, there's some stuff in there that is intriguing, but I'm just a little hesitant of like, it's been this long? Is it going to be Breath of the Wild with sky islands,
mm-hmm.
and maybe some craters in the ground? Like, how different can the world really be?
Let me ask you this: like, do you think, like, how many hours do you think you put into Breath of the Wild, like on an initial playthrough? Have you beaten it like 100%?
Not 100%, no. Probably like my first playthrough, I probably spent like 40 hours on it, I would guess.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably about the average for people that beat it 40, 50, maybe even upwards close to 100 hours. How big of a game do you think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be?
You think it'll be a shorter game?
I do think so.
Yeah.
I really think so. I don't think it's going to be a 60-hour game. I think it'll be like half that. Because I wonder, what I'm wondering is exploration going to be a big part of this game?
See, that's what I was thinking, because I was thinking, my initial thought was, why, if it's not, maybe they want to go a different route. It just seems like they would normally want to capture like the success of Breath of the Wild by doing something similar but different, And by similar, I mean still having that gameplay aspect of exploring this big open world. But then, I guess in Nintendo's history, they've also done some, like Ocarina of Time was it was their biggest game at the time, and they followed it up with a game that was similar, but also like a lot different,
Oh, totally different, I would say. Yeah, like it's like the world, I mean, Nintendo has virtually never. They've always like grabbed stuff from previous games, but they've always like changed direction almost with every game.
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes they've revisited. Like Twilight Princess is more akin to with Ocarina of Time, I would say. But I mean, they all they are repeatedly trying to like reinvent the wheel, I think. And like, all right, we've already done that. Like, what are we doing this time?
Yeah.
And I wonder, but Breath of the Wild could be the exception to this rule because it was so successful that now with Tears of the Kingdom, maybe it's like, well, this is the new Zelda, and this is what people want. This is what.
That's what I was thinking would happen, because it seems like such a hit. But then thinking, like, part of me thinking, like, if the world isn't that different and maybe it is, like, a more smaller game, that's, like, the opposite of, I think, what a lot of people got into Breath of the Wild for.
Do you think the world, like the overworld, is it going to be the Breath of the Wild overworld with just some islands kind of thing?
I don't know.
Or is this
I
like
think so.
Can you imagine if this is just a huge twist or something, and that's like the opening act of the game, and then you're off to a new world or something?
That's one of the things I thought is like maybe you go up in the sky, but then it's like it leads to some other like land that you couldn't access before as well or something.
Right, yeah.
Like maybe yeah, like maybe we're only seeing like a bit of it or something.
Yeah. Because like when I think of like every Zelda game kind of has like its own gimmick a little bit, and when I think of what's the gimmick of Breath of the Wild, it's
exploring the world.
It is, yeah. That was its gimmick, and like I don't know if they're gonna retract it. Like it's like I don't know what they're gonna do with the world, like to fill it up if it is the same world. Because like otherwise, like to me, I cannot rationalize that the whole world being accessible, but they're just being like miscellaneous collectibles or something, or like just the towns or hubs or something or something. Like I don't know. Like,
that would be. I feel like that would be pretty weak if it was just like.
Yeah.
But maybe I don't know. Maybe they do something that drastically changes the land somehow that we just haven't seen too. Or maybe it's like.
Yeah.
A different time period, so it. Like there's different things to find there entirely.
Right.
I don't know.
So like my thought was that the double meaning of this Tears of the Kingdom, maybe it's the world is like
torn apart.
Well, more so like is there going to be an alternate world? That's like because that's the quick fix. Then things can be the same land, but it's just like a dark world kind of, or a low rule kind of like world to it, where everything is the same, but like they can use that as the basis and then like adjust from there, kind of. Because otherwise, what have they been doing the last 7 years?
Right, like
7 years. It's been 6 years.
They've been rewriting the story. I saw that someone say that once on like a comment or something, like or maybe in Discord. I think someone said, "Oh, they're probably just fine-tuning the plot." I was like, they're spending a lot of time thinking about the plot.
Well, I think they are.
You think that there's like going hard on story in this game? I
think so.
I guess that could be like Majora's Mask. I would say is kind of story based compared to Ocarina of Time. It's just like all these little stories and stuff.
I do think this is going to be a yin yang kind of to Breath of the Wild. Like, so all the weaknesses of Breath of the Wild are things that like the voids or things it didn't do
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think they're going to try to do a lot of those. So I think it's actually going to be very story based.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be navigation based. And I think I mean, what are all those little like symbols? Could they represent different, like, is it going to go to the 7 dungeons of the world? And
Right. Okay.
and I think it'll be a big dungeon crawler too.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, I think there will be heavy story elements. I just didn't think like they're probably not spending a lot of time like
Oh, 6 years on it, 5 years.
on really worrying about that element of it. Because even the most story heavy Zelda game, I feel like usually the story is usually to move the game forward a little bit.
Well, like, what games do you think in the Zelda series are story? Like, Skyward Sword comes to mind, but
Yeah,
is there any other game you would say is story
pretty
driven?
story driven. I mean, I guess kind of a lot of the 3D games I would feel like Twilight
Okay.
Princess, Wind Waker, I feel like are
Okay.
some more than others. Wind Waker not so much. I feel like that's the start of like where the story really becomes like a longer thing that you're following in the game, as opposed to just like, go get all the gems or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, that's definitely happening there. It's kind of a halfway point, but I think Twilight Princess certainly.
Twilight Princess had more story. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say games like Ocarina were more like I don't think there's much more story in Ocarina than there is in A Link to the Past almost.
Yeah.
There's like a beginning, middle, and end, and then micro stories in the middle.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I feel. Yeah. Like that, and that's why I thought, I don't know. I thought even as some of the games have gone more that way, it still has not like ever totally been the main focus of a game. Like that like, what I mean? Like even with Breath of the Wild, I felt like they were like, with all the lore and stuff that people were worrying about, where it is on the timeline, I think even Nintendo was like, okay, we're taking a step back from that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's about exploration, the gameplay. Doesn't matter where it is on the timeline. So
Do you think there's going to be any like semblance of linearity to this game?
maybe, I don't know. I guess I wonder what it is you're doing. Like I'm guessing. I know a lot of people want the linearity back, like especially because the story aspect of the game. But I still feel like they would do something that's like, okay, there's the 7 tiers, you got to go get them, in whatever order type thing.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe they would try to do something different with it. I really don't know what to expect out of anything in this game.
Yeah. I could see it like I could see a game that's a very linear story heavy. Mm-hmm. Main plot being very linear. Not much navigation, but an abundance of overworld quests
Okay.
that are more meaningful quests. I think there were only few and far between the meaningful Breath of the Wild quests.
Yeah.
A lot of them were like, hey, I need
The grasshoppers.
yeah. That's a fun one actually. Because is that the one with the girl
He wants to impress the girl.
by giving him grasshopper and then she hates them or something.
Yeah,
right? So you got to get like 50 grasshoppers. You're like
You're out there
torturing this
cutting
woman.
grass all day. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, more of those kind of no.
No,
more,
ones that, the ones that really stood out.
Yeah, like I mean, obviously Terrytown comes to mind, but like they could do almost like massive, elaborate quests that maybe even involve mini dungeons and whatever, some sort of replacement to shrines.
Yeah.
But I see like a very linear narrative that's very dungeon heavy, very story driven, and then tons of quests
Okay.
in the world that are open at various intervals, which will make the game appear to be. It's like a middle ground because then it'll be kind of like an open world game. Like, oh, do I want to? That's more like traditional Zelda. But I think there's going to be so much optional content that
kind of reminds me of Majora's Mask.
Yes.
Actually. It's like, it's very linear. You've got these areas that are area 1, 2, 3, 4.
right.
But then what you can do in between those is like a lot, very varied.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I think that's like I don't know how they make use of the world though. That's like the one thing that I don't know. Unless they, I mean, it could be a cop out where they do some sort of like you know how like the Koroks had scattered about or whatever. It's like, you know, we need to find it. Like, you know,
Sure, there will be some of that. I'd like to see them kind of fine tune that though, make it a little more interesting.
maybe more than like there's like what 20 different types of puzzles for the
Yeah.
Koroks times 50 or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, if there's different kind of little, you know.
Maybe they could have new things pop up on the world too. You know, we've seen shrines rise up, we've seen islands rise up. Maybe new types of dungeons could show up, or like structure, like new things to explore. Maybe if it's time wise is different, maybe things could have been built. So dungeons could have been you know, like
Right.
like buildings could be like things that are reasonable to appear, I guess. I also thought maybe too, like maybe we haven't seen, like we've seen hints of the sky, but maybe there's just a lot more up there too.
More sky.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is maybe there's more islands, larger islands, you know, like maybe that's I could just keep thinking there's got to be more of a hook than, you know, Breath of the Wild with some little bits of sky islands. Like part of me thinks maybe that's a bigger feature and the ground isn't as much of a feature.
You kind of wonder, like, have you wondered, like, why are there islands in the sky?
Like in this game specifically,
Yeah, why are they there?
it seems like they've been there since the beginning of the series, right?
Oh, like, do you think they're well? I mean, like, no. Why are they there in this game? In Tears, yes, they're not in Breath of the Wild. You
Right.
look up, there's no islands, but like,
Right. They're like, we've seen things rise up from the
Hyrule
ground.
Castle kind of like is levitating.
Someone pointed out there's like craters in the ground in some of the shots in the trailer. So, you know, maybe composed of parts of there. I don't know.
Is the sky comprised of just pieces of land that have risen up?
It can't all be that.
Well, that makes it. That's like a good cop out for how to reinvent the world, because then you take a whole cluster, you put it in the air, and then you can change stuff that's in the air. But then the area below is like different then.
And some people were speculating. Then you got craters. Maybe you can go and there's something underground even.
Right.
I don't know, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we can go underwater too.
Underwater, that should definitely be a thing. More underwater exploration.
Is that really like I've heard people say that, but like, can you think of any Zelda game where you enjoy going underwater?
Going underwater?
Can you think of any video game where you like going underwater?
I like going underwater, actually.
What's your favorite video games that go underwater?
That go underwater.
What comes to mind right away? Jolly Roger Bay.
Jolly Roger Bay from
Is that what it's called? Jolly Roger Bay from Super Mario 64.
oh yeah, with the eel and everything. Yeah. No, I mean I love that level. I love that music and stuff. I know like swimming mechanics, you know, can be annoying. My first thought was in Assassin's Creed Black Flag, there's parts of the map where you can go look for, like swim underwater, look for treasure, and there's like sharks, and you gotta like hide, like Assassin's Creed style, hide in underwater like plants so the sharks don't see you.
Oh my goodness.
I loved it. I honestly
Wow.
loved it because I felt so scared sneaking by the sharks.
I think of Ninja Turtles on the NES where you have to detonate the bombs.
Okay, yeah.
Why are there bombs underneath the dam? Oh, they're trying to blow up the dam.
Yeah, you gotta remember your plot for
Yeah,
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that's a pretty memorable water level. Anyway,
I think underwater gets a bad rap. I think sometimes it's fresh. I associate the frustrations of like the iron boots and stuff, but I love most of my favorite dungeons I love the water dungeons actually.
well, they're also the ones that I think are perpetually get like the most dislike.
Yeah.
Like, or it goes through cycles, but you know it's so memorable. Like the Water Temple from Ocarina, or the Lake Bed Temple. I think gets a little bit of hate, or even like Jabu Jabu's Belly in Oracle of Ages.
Right.
It's like, but then other ones like people love the Ancient Cistern, and I guess that's a water.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as long as they do something, like they put a new spin on it, I think because it has a reputation, I feel like you probably, when it shows up, I think some people might like the the feeling of like, oh, here we go, it's the water dungeon, and you feel smart because you beat it.
Yeah.
And they're not going to make it nothing's going to be as complicated as some of the water temple or whatever, like those older ones.
Yeah.
They're going to make it's going to be a little bit easier to solve. And I think a lot, like in Skyward Sword, I think people like that one because they feel like they really, it's a really good puzzle, and I think it makes you feel smart when you figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that they would want to do that again.
I think they, like, when you look at Breath of the Wild with the Divine Beast, did it make you feel smart when you figured out some of those puzzles?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah. In particular, the water, actually. Mm-hmm. I liked the elephant trunk when you.
Well, that was the first one you did too,
and I was confused. Yeah. I was like stumped. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was in that dungeon for like 2 hours, and now I watch speedrunners and they beat it in like 90 seconds or something.
Most of those don't fully. Some of them are good, but most of them don't fully hit because it really just is about getting it to the right spot.
Yeah.
But other times it's like maybe some platforming involved, or even sometimes there's like multiple steps. I think of in Varudania, like I think getting that ball down it has like multiple kind of steps to it, if I'm remembering right.
Right, but I believe there's also there's so many ways to break it too, or you can do the dungeon. Like everybody does that dungeon differently. A little bit.
Okay.
Like sometimes, like they have mechanics where you need to get the electricity across, but you can drop like 4 different items.
Oh yeah.
And like, oh, that skips that entire process. Like
There'll definitely be that kind of stuff in the next game, I would imagine.
Oh, you think it'll have that sandbox feel to it?
I think so. I think the mechanics, a lot of those, we'll see a return of a lot of the mechanics, but I feel like there will be new stuff as well, obviously.
Do you think there's going to be like, Breath of the Wild, one thing it did was it gave you like 90% of your abilities, 2% into the game. Mm-hmm. You think that's going to be similar in Tears of the Kingdom?
I feel like we'll probably have the same abilities like that we had by the end of Breath of the Wild. Like
just start with them.
I think we'll start with those, and then if there are new things, I think that might be stuff that's gained over time because it's sort of got to teach you that stuff as well. It'll be like a quicker tutorial on the basics, though.
Do you think did you miss the idea of getting like permanent and like special items? We had like the boomerang and bow that they were in Breath of the Wild. They didn't feel as special.
Yeah, no, they just kind of felt similar to the other runes. They felt like
right,
especially bows because I was always using them. Like that's just like a regular thing you have.
Yeah,
I think. You saw in the one trailer there was like that dragon thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's just a weapon, but maybe I don't know. Maybe there's power ups that you can get too.
Right. And there's like clearly some ability to go through like a portal thing.
Right. And there's that glider thing.
Right.
So like
is that a what is that thing? Is that a divine beast? A mini divine
beast? Yeah.
It looks like something like that, right?
It's Von Meadow's baby.
Yeah, baby Meadow.
Baby Meadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so maybe you start with your runes that you had. I assume stasis and stuff was in the trailers, right?
Yes, we saw it had like a new ability.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it had like I don't even know what it was doing, but there was like.
So that could even be like, here's what I think is you probably start with the regular stuff, and then maybe there's new upgrades you get to them.
It just like evolves a little bit.
That happens in Breath of the Wild too.
Right.
But maybe there's newer things, and then, that one weird ability. I could see, it feeling like more than the last one.
Yeah. There's still just so much let me ask you this. So we're recording here in what are we in November? Is it November? It's November.
Yeah.
This game is coming out in 6 months as of yesterday compared to this recording. Do you want to know more about this game before it releases? You know what I mean? Like,
yes and no. Like when the trailer first hit, and I was like, I really still am not sure about what has happened over all these years. Like, what is there a new world? I feel like I felt like a little confused, but at the same time, I'm like, I'll just play it when it comes out. It's not that big of a deal. I don't know.
This is like a very unique situation for Nintendo where I feel like they don't need to show this game at all.
Yeah.
Like if it just released tomorrow, let's just say,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, I don't know if there's this person out there, let me know if you exist, where you're like, yeah, I love Breath of the Wild, but you know, based on what they've shown of Tears of the Kingdom, I don't think I'm going to pick it up. Like there's they haven't shown enough. I'm not interested. You know, like they don't need to sell anybody on this game.
Yeah, I would have liked to see stuff just to. I know I'm gonna be playing it to cover it and stuff, but it's not like there wasn't.
We have to play it, you know, just for the show.
No, that's not. I just meant like there's not even a fraction of a chance I'm not playing it, and even if similar to what you said, even if they hadn't shown anything and I didn't do this, I would still probably play it. But that's because it's like I almost like that I'm like questioning of it, because Nintendo always has a way of like surprising you. Like I feel like there's rarely a game they ever put out and it's like
a complete miss. Almost.
A complete miss,
especially in the Zelda series or in the.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like. And like we said, how they always try to do something different. They try to surprise you. So like I almost kind of like I feel like I've been a doubter of the game, but you know, I would have, even not doing this, I would still play it because I kind of have faith in them to like surprise me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they will deliver. I mean, if the game is awful, it'll be an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, right.
You know, then
what if it is just total garbage? There's no way, right?
Yeah, but like it's what's total garbage in the Zelda world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's
what could they do that would be so bad? I don't know.
I would say the one thing they could do that's so bad is just not innovate. And it's just the same thing. Mm-hmm. And but I mean, it's Zelda. Like they've been working on this game since before the war at this point. So, yeah, this is the longest. I don't even know if they're doing anything. I don't know if they're just waiting.
Just like they've had it done for a while.
Part of me has been thinking that. Because
you did speculate on that, even before this release.
So, I'm streaming on Twitch all the time, and I'm regularly watching Twitch. And one of the things I've been doing in the better part of the last year or so is I look for new people that I don't know. I'm just looking for people streaming Zelda. Mm-hmm. So sometimes I randomly go to the Breath of the Wild, who's streaming Breath of the Wild, and there's perpetually people that. Oh, it's 2022 and it's their first playthrough of the game still. Mm-hmm. Dozens or hundreds of people and the sales of the game show that. Everybody is there's still so many people that are picking up this game brand new right now, which is remarkable considering, and I wonder if that's going to be the case with Tears of the Kingdom too, if it's going to have a long tail.
Yeah.
Or is this going to be more of, because in general, the overwhelming majority of video games in the world, they release, people play them, they beat them, and move on. Mm-hmm. This game, what other games in 2017 are people picking up brand new right now?
Grand Theft Auto or not?
That's an example of one that has long legs, actually.
Minecraft.
Yeah,
from even older.
There are a few.
Yeah.
But
it's one of those top kind of selling games for sure.
It just has it doesn't even feel old. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that. I guess that could make it disappointing. Maybe it is a game that only took them a few years and then they've just held on to it and it shows. But part of me, I don't think that's fully true, but even in that situation, I bet that would still feel significantly different than going from, Assassin's Creed 16 to 17 1 year apart.
Are they at that number at that point?
I don't know. I'm just probably, yeah. They will somehow feel more distinct than that, and maybe that's kind of maybe I'll make a comparison to wrestling. You know, like Nintendo doesn't have to do a lot of moves. You know,
Okay.
they don't need to. They don't need like to release 3,000 Zelda games
Okay.
like 2 a year. You know,
So what wrestler is Nintendo?
they're like the Kevin Nash of
Okay.
wrestling. Like, you know what I mean? They just got to come out,
Shoulder thrusts and leg thrusts.
put out a Zelda game in 2017. Look, here's some ports and remakes, but I'll see you in a few years. You know what I mean?
Okay. He's not. Yeah. Nintendo's not doing any over the top rope splash.
Yeah,
dives
no,
through the ropes.
Hurricane Ranas, none of that stuff. No flippies. Yeah.
Okay. Specifically with Zelda, though.
Yeah, with Zelda, because then I mean, what Pokemon? They're like cranking those out. You know.
Okay.
To like, you know, a lot of people are always complaining about those games or whatever.
So
It's like,
who are the luchadors of the Nintendo then?
I think it's Pokemon.
Okay. All right.
What I don't know, Mario. He's jumping around.
Yeah. Who's Splatoon in
Splatoon?
WWE?
Splatoon. I mean, 3 games over that length of time is not too crazy. They're reasonable, you know. I think Zelda and like Animal Crossing now, it seems, are like they only work like a few shows a year.
They're part timers.
They're part timers.
Wow,
yeah.
filthy part timers. Wow. Okay.
It's because they're superstars. These games are incredible.
And then what does that make like Cadence of Hyrule? Is that like that's not an actual match? That's just like an autograph signing.
Yeah, exactly. That's like you like pre-record your voice for a radio like spot, you know.
I do want to ask you something. This does not have nothing to do with Tears of the Kingdom, but it's been in my mind and I've been thinking about it a lot because we did back over at the Hyrule Compendium. We always talk about. I think Zelda remakes is like the hot topic. Everybody talks about it. And if you're at this point, it's been 3 years since Link's Awakening came out, and everybody's like, "Hey, when are they going to do Oracle of Ages and Seasons? Like, is it inevitable? Is it coming?" There's some like weird complications to make it, but let me ask you something. What if Grezzo? Would you rather see them, the guys that made Link's Awakening, make a remake of those games, or if they just took the engine and made a brand new game in that world?
I would totally love that. Grezzo, they did the Ocarina of Time.
They did Ocarina of Time 3D, and they did Majora's Mask 3D, and Link's Awakening.
Because I've always I'm such a N64 fan of Zelda in particular. I've always wanted them to why not do another one of those?
Yeah, can you imagine the shock if they did that?
Ocarina of Time 3.
Well, it's like the Legend of Zelda, Twist in the Wind, and,
right?
And it's using the 3DS engine of that, and it's a totally new game that has nothing to do with any other game, really.
Maybe you could polish it up, even the graphics up a little bit or something. Like I'm thinking like a link between worlds is kind of like that, where it's like looks like the old thing, but it's a little nicer.
Same, like almost the same. Yeah, well, we're too late for a 3DS game at this point.
Yeah,
but
yeah, not a 3DS game. I'm thinking like, can't they make that? That's what I mean. Make that look good on Switch.
Oh yeah,
like that same engine, right?
Right.
They should do that.
That style, like
Link's Awakening, I could see that too. Like almost a pseudo sequel to that. I would love that.
Yeah, I don't like using the word sequel because I don't think it should have anything to do with the game.
No, I mean like spiritual sequel,
brand new adventure.
Yeah,
I mean, I see all these like third party games that have not or whatever different developers that are making Zelda like games.
Oh yeah,
and I'm like, why is Nintendo not like just those guys who made Tunic? Get a blank check out, right? And be like, all right, how many people made that game? Isn't it like a tiny?
It's a small team. Yeah.
Yeah, like okay, give those people some money and make a Zelda game.
That's what we have come up sometimes on our mailbags recently, like questions similar to that, and Tunic was one that I thought of. But I sort of thought of is like it's similar to like they've had Cadence now and Hyrule Warriors. That's not like an indie team, but you know what I mean. Like these established teams just saying, do your thing, but make it Zelda essentially. And I was thinking of like why not Yacht Club, who did Shovel Knight. Okay. Clearly, they're inspired by Adventure of Link a little bit in there, amongst other NES games and stuff. But I'm like, why not ask them? Ask some of these other I mean, I guess I would think it would be better overall if like these indies were making their own unique games, but
Like,
why not make some Zeldas?
let me ask you this: like, if have you played Tunic?
Yes.
I've seen it on stream and I've watched it. I haven't played it, but it's so Zelda.
Yeah, it felt kind of like Link's Awakening to me.
If they released that game and it was called The Legend of Zelda, whatever, and changed nothing other than like tiny bits of plot and names, and released it as its own game.
I don't even think you'd have to do much.
Like, so it's like these developers, they could make their own game still. It doesn't. You just
Right.
That's like how Super Mario Brothers 2 is a Mario game, but like they didn't make that as a Mario game.
Yeah, exactly. That's I 100% like.
Yeah.
I feel like, especially because we go all these years between the big games, like why not? They could do that, and it's like kind of supplements that too. And they don't have to worry about much. They just make sure everything's looks good. Okay, you can't do this or whatever. But they don't really have to like get in there and develop the game, I would assume.
And that doesn't hurt the development of Tears of the Kingdom.
No, yeah.
By the way, there's a song that I like by Bruce Dickinson.
Okay.
Called Tears of the Dragon.
Okay.
And every time I see the title Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like hearing the lyrics of the Tears of the Dragon, but Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom
for you and for me. That's
someone should do a like cover, but make it Zelda
of Tears of the.
Yeah, you should write it. I think you should write it, and then we'll get some band to do it, or maybe he'd do it himself.
Okay, the lyrics are pretty generic. It's like for too long. Okay, yeah,
can't recite all those.
I know the chorus. It's a good. That's like his biggest song. I think that he wrote. I think that was his biggest single. That was not part of Iron Maiden.
I didn't even know that.
Do you know any of his?
I just know Iron Maiden songs.
Yeah,
Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
To the hills of the kingdom.
Of the kingdom.
Just any
the trooper of the kingdom.
Yeah, just anything and just add of the kingdom at the end.
The number of the beast of the kingdom.
The number of the kingdom.
The number of the
beasts of the kingdom.
So, are you're excited?
Oh yeah. I'm pumped. I mean, it's been too long. Like I don't even. It's been so long. Like I can't even, like, the distance between these games is going to end up being 6 years, over 6 years. And when you think about this in the old days, that's like, look at the difference between Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess was 6 years. And in that time, we got Majora's Mask, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons, Wind Waker, Minish Cap, Twilight Princess. In the 6 years here, we've gotten a couple remakes, Cadence of Hyrule, like, that. I mean, we got some of that even in that 6 year period. We had Four Swords, we got the Link to the Past remake, and there's been like this giant void of Zelda. I feel it's weird.
Is it, they just don't need to? Is that what you think?
Yeah, well, because Breath of the Wild was so special, and because it was so big and it was such a big deal, and it was, I mean, it has longer legs than any other Zelda game. People are still buying it. I wonder. I think Andy made this. A few episodes ago or a few months ago, he did the percentages game. Like, what are the chances this game sells half of? It was, but like a follow up to that kind of question is, I think 1 year from now, or really 2 years from now, I'll use that because it'll be far enough away from the release of Tears of the Kingdom. I think in November 2024. Are more people going to be playing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom?
Oh, interesting. You think Breath of the Wild will still have staying power?
I do. I think so. I like it depending on what kind of game Tears of the Kingdom is, but just the style of game for Breath of the Wild. Like, there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of gamers out there that have never played Breath of the Wild that will someday play Breath of the Wild.
Why do you? This game's probably going to be a hit. though. Don't you think? It'll...
8 out of 10, maybe. Hopefully.
So I think it's going to be so massive that people will still, in 2 years even, there will, similar to Breath of the Wild, like there will be people playing it for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's just the Switch in general
but it could be one of those things like, think about like if you go back to 2005 or whatever, it was like, all right, are more people who are getting to Zelda playing Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask?
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, even though a lot of people argue Majora's Mask is just as good, if not better. The quality between the two games is not crazy and it's different, but like that was the special one.
Is it going to have the impact? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right because I think like it'll be viewed as for people getting into it like the first one of that type.
Yeah.
So like I think a lot of people want to like even if the other one has a bigger impact, I feel like, which I don't think it would, but I think people would still like, I want to check the first one out, start from the beginning, It's not going to be then they move on to that. I'm sure a lot of people have done with Ocarina of Time, like, oh, now I'll try the number 2 out.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll always be number 2. Well, have we talked long enough?
Yeah. Andy, this has been fun.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah.
I like talking to you every week.
Every week, yeah.
Here on the Zelda Cast.
Mm-hmm.
Go and...
You can You can follow. I think they can follow you at Spiteri _36. What is it?
Spiteri. I don't know.
Spiteri 316. Is it Spiteri 316?
Spiteri 316.
You don't know your own Twitter handle?
If you Google Andy Spiteri, I'm sure.
I think you can follow me at just Allison Aletha. I think that's my Twitter handle.
Your Twitter and
on the gram.
Yeah, and you're on the gram, and I'm
on
also,
the talk.
I don't know. I think I just have Twitter.
Andy doesn't have TikTok. You don't have TikTok.
No.
No, you're
I don't understand it. I'm too old.
Yeah, right. You're not the demographic. You're too Canadian.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody next week. We'll be I don't know what we're talking about.
It's next week.
We'll
go next week.
I want to commit them to something that they don't want to do.
Oh, we're doing a deep dive into the character development in Faces of Evil?
Yes, and then it's going to be Ilya month. Where we just do week by week
character analysis.
There's a lot there, so we need that much time. One of my favorite characters.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
All right, we'll see everybody later.